How's it going, you guys? If you remember on a previous video, I got a couple of hives here from Man Lake. I'll link that video in one of the corners here. So I'm going to work on a neat project that I've been pretty excited to do here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 observation windows in both brood boxes on one of these hives. So I'm going to put them on this side, but for example, I'm going to cut out a big section on the side of the hive, not the front and the back, but the side, because the frames run this way in the hive. So this way we'll be able to see the bee activity on the side of the outermost frame. I thought it would be pretty neat to have observation windows to give us a view of what's going on inside the hive without actually having to crack the hive open and disrupt the bees. So it's supposed to get down to like -20, -30 wind chill tonight, so I don't really feel like working in the garage. So I'm in my basement, my unfinished basement. I don't have a workbench, so I'm working on some cardboard boxes right now. But I'm going to go ahead and take the supers off the top of the brood boxes. We'll rotate this so we can get a better angle on it. And I'm going to measure out the size of the observation windows and cut those out. Sorry for all the shadows. My basement's usually pretty dimly lit, but I was able to borrow my dad's work light to get a little better lighting down here. So this is the front of the hive with the entrance down here. Right now I've got the entrance reducer that it came with in the entryway. And then this would be the left-hand side if you're facing the hive this way. This is the side. Both of these brood boxes, I'm going to cut out observation windows here. And then the handle here for lifting the brood box, if I do a good job cutting it, I'm hoping I can pull this out, rotate it 180 degrees and put it back in, so I can actually use this handle as a way to kind of grip the door and pull the observation door open. What I'm going to do to create a barrier is I've got some plexiglass here that I picked up from Home Depot. I'm going to cut that to size, and I will screw that on the inside of the brood box so that there's a barrier between when I open this and the bees just can't escape. I don't have to worry about caulking it or anything to make it airtight, because the bees will do that with their propolis naturally. Any joints between boxes here, you see I can push that. That's actually one of the frames right there where they'll be storing their honey and brood. This gap here they'll seal with propolis. So this hole, it's kind of like mortar for humans. It's like the mortar in between these joints here on these CMU blocks. It just molds everything together and makes it airtight, watertight, moisture tight. So as I was saying, cutting out the observation window on the side here will allow us to see the first frame where they'll build out their comb, start filling that with brood and honey. These 2 boxes on the bottom here are the only 2 boxes that the queen will have access to. On top of this one, as you saw in my previous video, we'll have a queen excluder. So the distance between each one of these, big enough to allow a normal worker bee through, but too small for the queen to get through. So the queen will stay in here and lay her brood in here, and then all of these supers that we put on top of the brood boxes will only be accessible by the worker bees to fill with honey. That's how we can ensure that we don't get any brood, any larvae in our honey supply. Okay, I'm going to pull all of the frames out of here, all the brood frames. And I'm going to pull the bottom board and entrance reducer out of our way so we've got a clean spot to work on. Alright, we'll start with this one. I'll mark this off with a pencil and then we'll be able to cut it out. I've got my observation window drawn out here in pencil on the side of the brood box. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting this out now. It's not perfect, but it should work. Holy smokes. Looks like I cut through their staples. Their staples go a lot further than 2 inches apparently. Came out this way, let's see if it fits. A little tight up in that corner. You know what, that's going to be perfect. It's going to work really well. So then I'll be able to put hinges up here and grab this and use it to open. Let's put this back together quick and show you what it'll look like with the frames in there. I dropped the first frame back in. Obviously there'll be a sheet of plexiglass in between us here, but this is what we'll be able to see. When we open the observation window, you'll get to see them building out their comb, and then the queen laying her brood, and potentially some honey storage in here as well. Alright, I'm just going to take my palm sander and kind of smooth down these edges I just cut here. I can kind of feel when I run my hand across it that my cut wasn't exactly straight. Obviously I was doing it freehand, I can feel some waves in it. So I'm just going to smooth those down, kind of flatten them out. Alright, I'm going to do the same on the door here, the observation window door. Everything is nice and smooth. Alright, well I've got all my cutting stuff out. I'm going to repeat the process on my other brood box and get that observation window cut out as well. I got the observation window cut out of the second brood box. Now the next step will be scoring the plexiglass and cutting it to size, snapping it to size. I've never been very good at this, so I'm hoping it goes well. But I'll measure out what I need here, score it with a razor blade, put it on an edge, and snap it off. God, I'm so freaking scared right now. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Perfect. Cut the plastic that's on the protective plastic coating. There we go. Voila! I actually did it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the other one out right away too. Look at that. It's a little foggy right now because I still have the protective plastic over it. So before I actually secure the plexiglass to the brood box, I want to go through and paint everything. It's already got a white primer on it, but I'm going to go ahead and paint a exterior white paint over the top of this primer. So I worked with my buddy Ben over at Fiddlesticks. He's the one that cut out the Green Acre logo for the mailbox. I'll put a link to that video in one of the corners here. I designed the logo for our beehives that I'd like to have on the front of each one of our beehives, and he cut it out in acrylic for me just like he did on the mailbox. And in order for this to secure to the front of our brood box, I need to fill this handle with a filler, which I have right here. So I'm going to take this wood filler and fill this handle so it's all flush across here, and then I'll do the same on our second hive. And then once that's cured, I'll come back and sand it, and then we should be able to go ahead and paint it. Holy smokes. Alright, according to the instructions for this Bondo filler, make a roughly a 3" by 1/2 inch thick puddle of the filler, and then you put this line of their hardener on it and mix it all together. It smells awful too. Alright, this is pretty well mixed. I'm gonna have to make a few batches of this to get this done. What a mess. This is not gonna work like I thought it was. There we go. Why didn't I think of that in the first place? The stuff looks exactly like peanut butter when you mix the hardening compound in with it. I think I'm gonna have just enough to finish these two handles. Perfect. I've got some left over actually. Alright, I filled both the handles with this peanut butter. And I have quite a bit left over actually. I'm kind of bummed I poured all that out and mixed the hardener into it. Got some left though, so I'll be able to keep this for a future project if need be. But my handles are filled. I'll be able to come back and sand all of this nice and smooth and paint over it. And that gives me a nice flat surface to adhere our Green Acre logos to. So I'm probably gonna let this sit overnight, and then we'll pick this back up tomorrow. Alright, it's the next morning and the wood filler has set up. So now I'm gonna sand it nice and smooth, and then we'll be able to start painting everything. Alright, that'll do. That's good enough. I got Mrs. Green Acre here. It's been a while since you've made an appearance in the video. Busy with the chidlers.
Chidlers?
The chidlers. So Sarah's applying our exterior coat of white paint on the outside of these boxes.
Like that.
Looks good. Nice work. Alright, I'm going to relieve Sarah and continue painting.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, all of our brood boxes and right here the bottom boards I have painted. So now we can go ahead and install the plexiglass windows. I'm just going to set these down in here, and then I'll be able to mark with Sharpie where I want to drill the holes to screw them into the board. Alright, I've got my holes marked with Sharpie. Now I'm going to drill them out. Now that I've got my holes drilled out, I'm going to remove this plastic film. Voila, crystal clear. And then I can start securing it with these screws. And there you have it. I gotta hit this with some glass cleaner to clean this up. Sawdust all over it, but the plexiglass is installed. I screwed it in on the back side. Let's drop a frame in there and see how it looks. Oh, that's gonna be super neat. Now I'm gonna install the hinges on our observation doors. I put the 2 screws in on the top, and now I'm going to push the door up as high as it'll go so we have a little bit of clearance down here to open and close it. Alright, I've got the hinges installed on the observation doors. This one actually seems to close a lot better than the other one. Not perfect, but it'll work. This one, upon closer inspection, my freehand jigsaw cut left a little bit of a ridge right in here. Probably you won't be able to see it on camera, but there's a little bit of a bump right there that I'm going to shave down with my multi-tool, repaint over it, and then we shouldn't have an issue with this one closing. Alright, I took the multi-tool and I shaved that down right through here. I'll just put some new paint on top of that, but that seemed to solve the problem. Now the door shuts just fine. Now that we've got our observation windows installed, I can mix up some epoxy and install our acrylic logos to the front of the hives. Okay, I installed the acrylic design on my hive. The design itself, wicked cool. Ben, you did a phenomenal job cutting it out, but holy cow was it tedious. Removing the individual pieces from the sheet that it was cut out of, removing the film on one side, taping it to hold it all together so I don't have to piece it together individually, applying the epoxy, putting it on the hive, curing it, removing the final film. Oh man, it took a while. It looks sweet though, but in the process of putting it on, I decided to eyeball it, which I shouldn't have done, and it is not centered on the front of my hive, and that is going to drive me nuts for the rest of my life. Being a draftsman by trade, I have a keen eye for symmetry, and little things like this drive me nuts. Small gap, large gap, not centered, but sweet. But I digress. That is not the what this video is about. The video is about the observation windows, which turned out awesome. So I think that about sums up this video. I'm going to finish painting and putting the rest of the hive back together. And the next time you see them, I will probably be taking them outside to set them up in preparation for our bees. Stay tuned for that. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited for warmer weather. Take care, everybody.